It's something we define fairly easily.
Man and woman in love, get married in front of God.
A commitment between two people to live together and be together for the rest of their lives.
Two people should really be loyal together. They should understand each other, and they should just be together in everything.
I guess it's just, if two people really love enough, that's all that really matters, right?
But not long ago, Stats Canada revealed a striking new reality. For the first time in Canadian history, married couples have become the minority. On the rise is the number of people staying single or living common law. The numbers are in, and they confirm what you might already know. The Canadian family is changing now more than ever. But what does it all mean for parents, children, grandparents, and for generations to come?
I think that the state of family is actually still pretty strong.
David Quist is Executive Director of the Institute of Marriage and Family Canada, an organization that collects and translates research for policymakers. To him, the new data isn't startling.
It all depends on which way you look at the numbers. Yes, 15% of families across the country are in a cohabitating relationship, 34% in the province of Quebec. Those are big numbers and big concerns, but still the vast majority are in a married situation.
Still, 10 years ago, people who were married made up over 60% of the population. Now they barely hit 48%. So why aren't people tying the knot like they used to?
I think it's because of probably two different sides of that equation. One is the economic side, that we don't have any financial incentives to be married. In fact, it's almost a disincentive in some parts of our tax system to be married.
And there may be another reason.
The other side is the social side, that we've had so many changes, and I'll use that in quotation marks, with the view of marriage. So many changes to how we view marriage from an ideological perspective, from a cultural perspective, that many people are under the attitude that say, well, it's just a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter.
If it's really just a piece of paper, go on down to City Hall and get the piece of paper. Make the girl feel better,
As the number of common law couples goes up, author and speaker Jennifer Roback Morse is redoubling her efforts to educate people about cohabitation.
We have some myths about cohabitation.
One of the biggest myths, says Morse, is that it will lead to a secure future.
I think this is one of the ideas that people have, that if they live together first, they will have a better marriage.
But she says the opposite is true. In fact, more cohabiting couples that get married end up in divorce.
No benefit to marriage has ever been found associated with cohabitation. Okay, so those who think that by living together they're going to improve their married lives later, they are completely mistaken. There's no benefit has ever been found to marriage.
And it gets worse. Cohabitation is also associated with a high risk of violence, depression, and mental health issues.
Aggressive acts at least twice as more likely in cohabiting relationships as in marriage. And death, to be killed by your spouse or your partner, some of the studies are showing something like 9 times greater probability for a cohabiting woman to be killed by her partner than a married woman. I mean, the fact is husbands are not as violent as boyfriends, I mean, that seems to be the case. And the child abuse stuff is really striking. The single most dangerous person in a child's life is the mother's cohabiting boyfriend.
Still, some Canadians aren't getting the whole picture.
And would you ever consider living common law or cohabiting with someone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
In a way, yes. I think common law, a lot of people or men like that idea better because they don't feel tied down or they don't feel like they have that burden on them, whereas it's so official. But I would rather personally have the marriage. I like knowing that official, having the ring and feeling, like it's official. I wanted the big wedding and all that. Common law is just more like you're a couple, you're just two people who live together. It's not, but I guess there's the pros and advantages to each.
I don't see any real difference. I mean, if people feel that they can have the same relationship and just be in cohabitation, albeit more power to them.
So where's the disconnect?
I spent 2 years writing a book about marriage.
That question sent founder of the Institute for American Values, David Blankenhorn, on a journey to write his book, The Future of Marriage.
What's the difference between marriage and cohabitation, for example? you know. I mean, cohabitation is also two people who have a commitment. But, so if you don't, you have to have this public understanding in order for it to mean anything at all.
That public understanding of marriage often overlooks one big part of the marriage equation.
The other thing that gets left out is children of these definitions, whereas in reality, marriage is fundamentally a procreative institution. It is about, it's the way that we humans have come up with, the best way to bring new life into the world and to help nurture that new life. And so if you don't get to say that when you talk about what marriage is, where are we?
While there are many forms of family life, says Blankenhorn, the best possible one for children is a family with a loving mother and father.
If you were just a child and they ask you, under what circumstances would you like to be born? If you were a smart child, you would say, I want to be born with a mother and father who are there to love me and love each other. And I want that love to be a strong, solid, publicly understood love that's supported by extended families and communities and recognized, and that's what you would want. So I'm not saying that alternative family forms don't exist, and I'm not saying that they're not families. I'm saying that we know what works best for children.
For Blankenhorn, his first goal is to change the understanding of marriage. His second is to change the status of families in North America.
The single most important objective is to increase the proportion of our children who are growing up with their own two parents who are in a good marriage. And if that were to happen, we would see a reduction in a lot of our social problems, and we'd be happier as people. We'd be more fulfilled. Our children would be thriving more.
But getting that message across is another matter, especially to those growing up in a culture of divorce.
Marriage, it's very complicated, very, I don't know, it's scary because, the commitment and all. But I don't know, I think it's like something that people should go through at least once in their life. And hopefully, when you get married, you think it's going to be for like ever, but things don't work out. Especially in Canada, the Western world, divorce is like very common.
Do you want to get married?
Yeah.
Do you want to get married?
Oh yeah, I want the white dress, big whole shebang, definitely.
Would you consider just living with someone and not getting married?
Nah, that's
You can find a roommate to do that, yo. You don't need a guy to live with. You can find a roommate. Just be like, okay, I want to live with you.
I don't know. There's always that possibility, but I don't know. My parents are kind of strict, so they wouldn't approve of it. So I don't know. It's that's another topic that's like very complicated to think about, but I wouldn't mind doing that either because it's like, then you don't have that whole like commitment of like if you want to leave, you can just leave without having that whole like.
But you're living with that person, so it's like your whole life is there. How are you just gonna leave?
No, but then there's no ring, there's no like paper. You can just walk out and be by yourself again.
If you would give like a forecast to the Canadian family, would you say it's looking good or not so much?
Not so much. Not so much.
I don't know. I'd say it's optimistic. I mean, no, not so much actually. No, divorce is like up here. It's like getting higher and higher every year. So.
And as they navigate through these questions, maybe they need to hear some of these stats. While marriage may be in decline in Canada, Dave Quist says it's still the best thing going.
If you're married today, the statistics tell us that you will have a longer, healthier life. You'll view yourself in a happier way. Your children will do better in school. They'll be less prone to early sexual activity, less prone to having substance abuse such as drugs or alcohol.
And those indicators, says Quist, means as society embraces marriage, it also embraces itself. In Ottawa, Ontario, Sherien Barsoum, 100 Huntley Street.